My girlfriend used our joint fund for dates with another man. I said, enjoy yourself. Then I withdrew the entire balance in cash and closed the account. She was left frantically calling me from a restaurant after her card was declined with her new man. I, 29 male, am, or rather was, in a relationship with Janet, 27, for the last 4 years. We were that couple, you know? The one everyone thought was rock solid. We lived together, we had our routines, we were saving up for a massive trip to Southeast Asia. A whole month of backpacking, temples, and street food. This trip was my dream, and Janet seemed just as excited. To make it happen, we started a savings fund. To keep things simple, it was a high-yield savings account under my name that we both contributed to. I put in the lion's share, about 70%, because I earned more, but she was consistent with her contributions. We had a little app that tracked our progress, and seeing that number climb was a huge motivator. We were at about $8,500, so close to our goal. The past couple of months, Janet had been a little distant. More nights out with the girls, more vague texts. I'm not a jealous guy, and I trusted her completely. I figured she was just stressed with work. Stupid, I know. The truth came out in the most mundane way possible. We had a shared email address we used for bills, streaming services, and apartment stuff. I logged in to find a warranty receipt for our coffee machine. I guess she'd been using it for personal things too, and had forgotten to sign out. Her most recent messages were right there. My eyes caught a subject line that made my stomach clench. Booking confirmation, the Grandview. It's one of those super fancy, overpriced restaurants we'd joke about going to if we won the lottery. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. It was a dinner reservation for 2 for last Tuesday. The name on the booking? Janet and a guy named Tyler. My world tilted. I looked in her trash folder. It was a goldmine of betrayal. A whole thread of emails with Tyler. Flirty, romantic, making plans. Turns out girls' night was often Tyler night. But it got worse. I saw e-transfers from our vacation fund account to her personal account. Little ones at first. $150 here, $200 there. Then they got bigger. I logged into the savings account, my hands shaking. Over the last 3 months, she'd siphoned nearly $3,000. There were transfers that lined up perfectly with her nights out. A big withdrawal a few days before a weekend she said she was visiting her sister. Her sister later posted pics from her own apartment that weekend. I felt cold. Not angry. Not yet. Just a hollow, icy calm. It was like watching a movie where I was the main character, and I had no idea what the plot was until the final scene. I spent the next hour meticulously going through the statements, matching dates with her texts and the emails. The evidence was overwhelming. She wasn't just cheating, she was making me pay for it. Our future, our dream trip, was funding her new romance. I didn't confront her. What was the point? Screaming? Crying? Begging for an explanation I already had? No, that wasn't going to fix anything. So I made a plan. A very simple, very direct plan. The next day she was getting all dressed up. She looked stunning, I'll admit. A new dress I hadn't seen before. Probably bought with our vacation money. Big night? I asked, keeping my voice casual. She smiled, that same smile she gave me 1,000 times. Yep, just a dinner with Carolyn and the girls, celebrating her promotion. Carolyn, her best friend, who I knew for a fact was on a business trip in another state. I nodded. Sounds fun. You look great. I paused, then added, you know what? Use the vacation fund card for tonight. My treat. Enjoy yourself. Her eyes lit up. Really? Are you sure, babe? It's our travel money. Yeah, I said, my voice flat. I'm sure. You deserve it. She gave me a quick kiss, a peck on the cheek that felt like a slap in the face, and grabbed the debit card linked to the savings account. You're the best. I'll be late. Don't wait up. The moment the front door clicked shut, I went into action. I had my laptop ready. I logged into the bank and transferred the remaining $5,500 from the vacation savings account to my personal checking account. The balance was now $. Then I found the close account option and submitted the request. I knew it would take a day or two to finalize, but for all intents and purposes, it was done. Then I went to the bank. I withdrew the $5,500 in cash. All of it. I walked out with a thick envelope of $100 bills. It felt significant, tangible, the weight of my shattered future in my hands. Back at our apartment, I started packing. Not my stuff, hers. I carefully folded every piece of clothing. I boxed up her makeup, her books, her half of our shared life. I was methodical. I went through our filing cabinet and pulled out all my own sensitive documents, passport, birth certificate, social security card, and locked them in my briefcase. I stacked her boxes neatly by the front door. Around 9:30 p.m., my phone started buzzing. It was Janet. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Then a string of texts came through. Hey, my card got declined. So embarrassing. Can you transfer some money over? Babe? Seriously, I'm stuck here. The bill is huge. Tyler's covering it, but this is awful. Why isn't the card working? The balance should be fine. Pick up your phone. What is going on? The waiter said the card was rejected. I finally picked up on the 8th call. Her voice was a high-pitched shriek. What did you do? The waiter came back with my card cut in half. He said the transaction was do not honor. Tyler had to pay for a $400 dinner. Everyone was staring. I let her finish. The account has a zero balance, Janet, I said calmly. I used the vacation fund. I just used it all at once. For my future. A future that doesn't include you. I could hear her sputtering. What are you talking about, Tyler? The Grandview? And the little weekend getaway, I added. And the shopping sprees. I know, Janet. I know everything. The line went dead silent. In the background, I heard a man's voice, probably Tyler's, asking, Is everything okay? I packed your things, I said, my voice steady as a rock. They're by the door. I've already spoken to the landlord and paid the fee to have you removed from the lease. You have until the end of the month, Dermer. I'd suggest you find a new place to live. Maybe Tyler has a spare room. I hung up before she could respond. I blocked her number. I blocked her on all social media. Then I sat on my couch in the quiet apartment, the envelope of cash on the coffee table. The adrenaline was gone. Now there was just this vast, silent space where our life used to be. Update 1. It's been a week since what my friends are now calling the Great Transfer. The quiet in the apartment is deafening. But your comments, man, it helps. It really does. The fallout was immediate. The night it all went down, Janet started calling from blocked numbers. The voicemails were a roller coaster of hysterical crying and furious accusations. She called me a thief, a monster, a coward. The irony was apparently lost on her. The next morning, she went on a full-blown offensive with our mutual friends, crafting a narrative where I was a controlling, paranoid boyfriend who flew into a jealous rage and financially ruined her. I didn't engage publicly. Instead, I sent a single, concise text to a few of our closest mutual friends. Hey, I know Janet has been reaching out. The savings account was in my name. I have bank statements showing she withdrew nearly $3,000 over the last few months to fund an affair she was having. I ended the relationship and removed the remaining funds. I packed her belongings and gave her until the end of the month to move out. I attached a single screenshot of an e-transfer memo, trip supplies. That's all it took. The narrative shifted. One friend, Aaron, called to apologize for ever doubting me. But the real drama came 2 days later. My doorbell rang. It was Janet, her new boyfriend Tyler, and her father, Dennis. Dennis, a big, imposing man who I'd always gotten along with, looked furious. We need to talk, he boomed. It became my business when you stole my daughter's money and threw her out. Janet started crying on cue. Tyler, the new boyfriend, puffed out his chest. Look, man, you owe her that money. It's hers. The sheer audacity was stunning. I stood my ground in the doorway. Dennis, I have bank statements. I have emails. She was cheating on me and using the money we saved to pay for it. Dennis, a logical businessman, paused. He looked from me to his sobbing daughter. Show me, he said. No, Janet shrieked. It's private. I looked at Dennis. I have nothing to hide, but not here. You and me can go to a coffee shop, alone. I looked pointedly at Janet and Tyler. They are not welcome in my home. At the coffee shop, I laid out the facts. The emails, the transfers, the texts. He sat there for a long time, just staring at the phone screen. He looked older, defeated. I'm sorry, he said finally, the anger gone. He paid for the coffee and left without another word. I got an unhinged email from Janet later demanding her half of the full $8,500. She said I owed her. I didn't reply. I just forwarded it to her father with no comment. The next day, a large cargo van was outside the apartment. Janet and Tyler were there, loading her boxes. They didn't even look at me. The entitlement was gone, replaced by a sullen, bitter silence. Now I have to figure out what to do with a quiet apartment and a future I have to rebuild from scratch. Update 2. Hello again, Reddit. I thought with Janet moved out, that would be the end of it. How naive I was. About a week after she moved, I started getting letters from a shady strip mall law firm threatening to take me to small claims court for unlawful seizure of joint assets. I knew it was a bluff. The next escalation was far more serious. I came home from work last Thursday to find a bill in my mailbox. It was from a high-end furniture rental company for over $2,000. The delivery address was Tyler's condo. The name on the account? Mine. My blood ran cold. This was no longer just about betrayal, it was fraud. And I realized how she'd done it. A few weeks before I found out, she'd been organizing our filing cabinet. She must have taken photos of my driver's license and other documents then. The premeditation of it all made me feel sick. She had a backup plan to furnish her new life, and I was going to pay for it one way or another. This is where I stopped being calm. This is where I got angry. My first call was to the furniture company's fraud department. I explained the situation, filed a report with them, and sent them the number for the police report I had just filed online for identity theft. They were incredibly helpful and immediately launched their own investigation. My second call was to a friend of mine, Jerry, who is an actual, competent lawyer. He drafted a blistering cease and desist letter to the strip mall attorney, informing him that his client had engaged in criminal fraud and that any further contact would be met with a formal complaint to the state bar. Then Jerry gave me an idea. A beautifully simple, perfectly legal, and utterly devastating one. An anonymous factual tip to his HR department might be in order. He'd said with a grin. Tyler was constantly posting hustle culture nonsense on LinkedIn, and he listed his employer, a mid-sized regional company that supplied businesses with janitorial products. I drafted a carefully worded anonymous email to his company's HR department. I outlined the active police investigation for fraud and attached public records showing his outstanding financial liens. I simply stated that this pattern of financial instability and alleged criminal activity might be a liability for their company's reputation. I hit send. A week later, I got a call from Aaron. He had the full story from Carolyn, Janet's ex-best friend. Tyler was fired. The anonymous tip, combined with their own background check, was too much of a risk. He lost his job for breaching the company's code of conduct. Tyler, predictably, did not take this well. He blamed Janet for everything, for being sloppy, for having a psycho ex, for bringing this drama to his door. In the middle of their screaming match, the repossession team from the furniture company showed up, and in front of all his neighbors, carried out every last stick of furniture. The humiliation was total. He snapped. He threw her out, dumping her boxes in the hallway of his condo building. So now, Janet is homeless. Her father has cut her off completely, and she has an active fraud investigation hanging over her head. It's not a conviction, but that police report number now follows her everywhere. A permanent red flag on any rental or job application she fills out. She tried to call me, sobbing, begging me to make it stop. I deleted the voicemail. My only remaining task was to deal with my own mess, calling the credit bureaus to place a freeze on my credit and dispute the fraudulent account. It was a headache, but it was a final, necessary step to scrub her from my life. Final update. Hey Reddit, it's been a while. I'm writing this from a small cafe, not far from my new apartment. I moved when I got back from my trip. The old place had too many ghosts. My trip to Southeast Asia was transformative. I spent the first week in a fog, but somewhere over the mountains of Vietnam, I let go. I realized the money I'd withdrawn wasn't revenge money. It was my escape fund. It bought me my freedom. I came home lighter. I never intended to post a final update, but something happened last week that brought it all full circle. I was at a downtown bus station, heading to a concert, when I saw her. It was Janet. She was wearing the uniform of a commercial cleaning company, one I didn't recognize. She was pushing a heavy janitorial cart loaded with cleaning supplies and trash bags. Her face was gaunt, her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her hands were raw. The vibrant, confident woman I knew was gone, replaced by someone who looked exhausted down to her bones. She was arguing with a supervisor, a short, stout woman who was pointing at a checklist and shaking her head. Janet's shoulders were slumped in defeat. She looked up, her eyes scanning the crowd, and for a heart-stopping second our gazes met. There was no anger in her eyes, no entitlement, just a vast, hollow emptiness. A flicker of recognition, then shame. She immediately looked down, turning her body away from me, as if trying to become invisible. I felt nothing. No pity, no satisfaction. It was like looking at a stranger. I never saw Tyler. A few weeks ago, out of morbid curiosity, I searched his name online. His LinkedIn profile is gone. The only recent mention of him was on a court docket from a neighboring county for a series of petty theft charges. He'd been caught shoplifting. Their worlds didn't just implode, they shattered, and they were left to sweep up the pieces alone. Janet, with her life tainted by a fraud investigation, was now working a physically demanding, low-wage job. Tyler, stripped of his phony sales guy persona, had devolved into a common thief. They didn't need to be trapped in a miserable relationship to be punished. Their individual consequences were far more fitting. I turned and walked away from the bus station without looking back. My life is quiet now, but it's a peaceful quiet. I have a new apartment, a promotion at work, and a plane ticket to Iceland for my next vacation, paid for in full by me. The future is no longer a shared dream that can be stolen. It's just mine. And it looks pretty damn good.